It's thinking about it. Good evening. Welcome, everyone, to the Info Circuit. My name is Matthew Seeley. It is a pleasure to be joined this evening by Mr. Derek Riley, Derek of Nevo. People are probably used to seeing the two of us here doing the to and fro on the Irish EV Association side of things, but given where we're at, the time of year, Derek, what's going on, it's awfully important to talk about Nevo and what's going on there. So we said, let's make it a bumper fill special and throw it out that way. So, yeah, welcome, sir. This is episode 6. Am I correct?
Episode 6 of the Info Circuit.
Episode 6.
Not quite every month, but we're nearly every month.
Every week, Derek. We're going to get an episode every week.
Better
Might not get
me.
every week, but for every week we hit a week, we're going to hit a week. So yeah. So we're here. We're in the run up to the Nevo show. It's perfect timing to see what's happening, see where things are at, but also this is much bigger than just the Nevo EV show. Like, this is the bit that we're going to get into in a bit, but we're going to start, I suppose, with the start, Derek. Let's go back and kick things off to where it all started for what is Nevo EV Reviews Ireland as it is nowadays. Let's step back to where that came from.
Yeah, so originally it was I drove my first EV in 2018, a BMW i3, and it was a go-kart in Dublin. And I went, oh, there's something interesting in that. And so went back to the team because I was writing reviews for the Effect.net, said to the team, at the time I was doing mobile phones and stuff like that and other hardware. And I said, I think that people that are interested in tech will be interested in electric vehicles. There's a motor, there's a battery, you have to plug it in and charge it. And started writing reviews in 2019. Nissan Leaf was my first, then Volkswagen e-Golf. A number of the brands said to me, we'd be interested in video content. I said, I have no interest in video content. And then the pandemic started and people were making banana bread and I set up a YouTube channel. And
sourdough, Derek. It was sourdough.
Sourdough, sorry. We were doing kombucha. So yeah, we're a kombucha. Keeping the SCOBY alive. But yes, so at the time I said I didn't know anything about recording or editing or filming, and some people would say that's still the case. But in 2020, I set up a YouTube channel, and that was EV Review Ireland. Also started getting involved in the Irish EV Association at the time, Irish EV Owners Association at the time as it was. And I met a guy on there when I was going for election there called Conor O'Boyle. And Conor reached out. At the time I was working with Indeed, the jobs website, and Conor reached out and says, would I know of anybody that'd be interested in managing Nevo? And I was, and I still am, a very simple man from the west of Ireland, and didn't realize he was asking me, would I like to become the general manager?
Okay.
And I was like, oh, let me have a little think about that. And then he had to come back and say, Derek, no, we're wondering if you'd be interested. So yes. Conor Boyle and Shane Ennis are the founders of what was Sweep at the time, which is an online used car platform where you swipe left or swipe right, kind of like a Tinder for cars. And their second product was a company called TradeBid. Their third launch was Nevo, and I joined 3 years ago next month. And then the fourth product is a company called Instabid. And so Nevo was started I joined Nevo in November 2021, and we launched in August of 2022. Nevo, the website. I was still doing EV Review Ireland YouTube channel. Nevo was over here. Very soon afterwards, then it became the Nevo website, and the YouTube channel is just Nevo EV Review Ireland. And so it's all the one brand now. So Nevo itself, have you any questions on the first part, Matthew, before I jumped into what is Nevo?
No, I suppose it's the big thing. It was a natural progression, I suppose, is really the way I would describe it, as the YouTube channel, where it was, and what Nevo is on the other side of it. The two didn't come together, just made sense, I think, really,
Absolutely,
didn't it?
Yeah. People were getting a bit confused as to Derek's with EV Review and what is Nevo, and he's working for Nevo, but videos are going out in EV Review. So yeah, it was literally, let's call it all the one. And so it's all under that one brand. So there's Nevo, and then there's Nevo EV Review Ireland, which is my original YouTube channel, which is now underneath that Nevo umbrella.
Excellent.
And so Nevo itself has 4 parts of the business. Number one is the website. which is you can see every car, electric car, plug-in electric vehicle, electric van. We have a comparison tool on there. We have a journey planner, which is run underneath, or we are in partnership with a better route planner. So the Nevo route planner is a better route planner, slightly tweaked. Whereas if you put a start and end destination into our route planner, what the guys in ABRP are doing is they show every charger along that route.
Yes.
Whereas on the ABRP, they'll only show the charger that if you need to stop, where you need to stop.
And so it's when we were suggested one.
Correct. When we were working with them, we were like, oh, people in Ireland would like to see what the corridor of chargers are. And I know a number of brands actually use our journey planner now when they're in that sales process. So Matthew walks into a dealership thinking about going electric, and they may say, Matthew, you're in Limerick. Where do you go on a regular basis? Donegal, Belmullet, Dundee, wherever it may be. And so they'll put in the start and end point. And on the Nevo journey planner, it'll show you every single charger along that route, AC and DC.
Excellent.
And so it gives you kind of a confidence as to, I didn't realize there were that many chargers. And so that was one of the things we got that's slightly different.
Yep. It's a very good one. I would say, is just to jump in there slightly, it's a common thing we see when people are talking about EVs and where they're going and what they do. They don't know what's there. They think there is less than there is. And we're seeing a shift. It's stuff that I've spoken about before, where we are moving away slightly from the forecourts being the only place to charge. There's a public library, there's a county council building, etc. that's along that route. But because it wasn't where you would have charged before, people don't realize it's there. So having that a bit of information is a very good way of doing it. So you're absolutely correct. That bit of saying where A, B, and C is, it's not where you thought it should be. It's a different model in effect. So that's
even that sports club grants that are coming around as well. So there's going to be fast chargers in a number of different locations. So the route planner is probably one of our most the busiest sections on the website. Then we also have an advice. My YouTube reviews are on there as well. And we're linked up in a number of organizations, the likes of Bank of Ireland. So you can see the retail cost, but you can also see the monthly repayment on it as well. So the site is getting busier and busier every week and every month. And that's why I joined Nevo originally. And so the site, the YouTube channel, and then on the back of the site, a couple of years ago, people started reaching out to Matthew, that had fleets of electric vehicles or fleets of diesel vehicles, and they were thinking about going electric. And so we set up Nevo Advisory, and what that is we help organizations go electric, and we work with Geotab as our telematics partner, and other charge point operators, EV charger installers. And so if Matthew has a fleet of 500 vehicles, 20 vehicles, 100 vehicles, Geotab will help us understand what vehicles can go electric today or tomorrow, and my knowledge of the marketplace with regards to what's coming down the line can help those organizations. We do workshops on how to drive an EV. I've been in rooms in Portlaoise with 50 burly men that drive vans asking all the questions about electric vans. But having the answers and they're not stupid questions, they have genuine questions, but also being able to debunk the myths and bust those myths that are out there about electric vehicles. And so that was the third part of the business advisory, which is, again, busy. And then the last part of the business then is we started a small little show in February, and it was so successful. We are doing another one in November, with more to come in 2025. So there are 4 parts to the Nevo business.
Excellent. So I suppose we're going to come to the Nevo EV show now in a little bit. So we'll keep people on tenterhooks a small bit about that one. I'm going to say, you were talking about the website and the busyness of, we'll say, a better route planner and stuff that way, the fleet telematics and what the work is there. Can you give people an idea of what it is day to day, and again, going back into those questions when you are meeting people, what's the bit that you're seeing that's the big hit on the website, for argument's sake? What's the big hit with the questions that might come to you directly? And again, with the fleets side of things, what's the big thing that you're seeing that's a step change there, for argument's sake? It's 3 questions, Eric, so if you can remember it now. Test.
And they're a great question, because there's different users on the website. So there's a consumer that's coming along that's changing from a combustion engine vehicle, and he, she, or they want to soak up all the information that's there. So whether it's an article, whether it's one of my reviews, whether it's a blog post that we have, whether it's a comparison tool, whether it's a journey planner. So the website is targeted towards them in a certain way, but also then it can be utilized by a local dealership as to educate the sales staff, understand that sales process with that journey planner, but also then the manufacturers are advertising on our website because they understand that the people that are coming to the website are in that EV space. And we send leads then off to dealerships for people looking for test drives. We don't monetize those leads at the moment, but the feedback that we get from the dealerships is it's a very good conversion lead. So it's somebody that's thinking about trading in, so you're getting their trade-in details. You're also potentially getting that they're looking for finance. You're understanding the vehicle that they want to test drive, and the fact that they've come through Nevo because there's no other distractions on our website. You're only going to Nevo for electric vehicle information. It's not for you're looking to buy a second-hand fridge or get rid of your couch. You know, it's a very dedicated electric vehicle platform. And so people that will then submit a lead, you know that they've landed, they've researched, and they're more qualified. Is the theory, but that's also what we're hearing. So that's the consumer side and the B2B side. But the B2B in the advisory space, then it can be a random email on a Monday morning from a government department or a private fleet thinking about an aspect of we'd like to understand what it's going to take for us to go electric. We're thinking about putting telematics in, or we're thinking about what chargers to put in, what back office do we put in. We'd like you to do some training for us. And so the advisory stuff is totally, whereas the consumer stuff is fairly, somebody's interested in an electric vehicle, test drive, and you're away. Whereas the consumer, the advisory stuff is very varied, which is great.
Okay.
I really enjoy it, but it could be a fleet down in Tralee. It could be a government department. You know, it's every day is a different day in that space. And we've got a great team within the organization. So Nevo is part of the Drive group. And so we have about 40 odd staff, and there's some shared resources along that. We've got an amazing looking website and brand. So that would be Jorge, our chief design, our Graham and Finn in marketing. We've also got IEVA on the team now as well. Director of commercial is Simon. Myself and Simon are very close. Simon Andrusetti, he just did the Dublin Marathon yesterday, so I'd say he'd be busy today. But
sleep, Derek, I'd say.
But so there's lots going on in the organization, and TradeBid, our sister company, is expanding into other European markets. But on the knowledge that we have in electric vehicles, we can help TradeBid and vice versa when we're looking for residual values or time on market. We're just working on a report at the moment that'll be published in time for the show with regards to what's happening in that space, how longer or shorter are electric vehicles sitting on the forecourts, what's the residual values like. Some really good, juicy data points. And that's the beauty of being part of a larger group.
Yes, absolutely.
Did I answer all three questions, Matthew?
Yeah, you did. And I'm going to say it's an interesting one. We've discussed it before about the data that you can get back out of Nevo and what goes on with it. And we've seen people object to the data. I think Derek is one way of putting it, that they kind of go, that's not true. And you kind of go, well, hold on a minute. This is based on Bank of Ireland. This is based on TradeBid. This is based on actual data that comes from the work in Nevo. It's not being made up. It's something that you see statistically written down. And
there's other data points. Yeah, there's other data points from other people that may not be hearsay, or in the pub or on Facebook they saw something. Whereas, the data is the data. The data doesn't lie, and if you can't measure it, you can't master it. And so that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. So I suppose the interesting thing is we can get the data for the most part, getting it out there. But again, in that advisory role, I suppose the question I would have for you is, are you finding people are more receptive, I would say, when they're there face to face and having a conversation with you? Or, there's maybe already a bit of curiosity.
Yeah, if they've made the inquiry, you're not pushing against somebody that doesn't want to go electric now. They've made the inquiry, maybe for certain reasons. Their managing director might have said, we need to lower our emissions. We need to lower our running costs. We've gone electric and it hasn't worked. Can you come in and show us where we may have improve upon our process? And so there's lots of different reasons, and there are certain parties within organizations that don't like change, whether it's the drivers, whether it's the fleet manager, whether it's the CFO, because they may see an initial upfront cost and they're not calculating the cost of ownership. There's lots of reasons and parties. It might be a union that doesn't want telematics in their vehicles. But when we sit down with them and explain to them that, do you realize that the data that the telematics device or the camera system is gathering is going to help you more than hinder you if there's a case, and you're saying, I wasn't going over the speed limit, or I wasn't on the other side of the road, or I wasn't on the phone. When you've got the data, you've got the proof. You can't argue with it. And so if you're doing everything you should be doing, the camera in the cab or the telematic device on the vehicle, it won't go against you as long as you're following the rules.
Absolutely. And from what you've seen with the individual, we'll say, that individual that wants to buy an EV versus that commercial aspect side of things, I know I found it very interesting with some of the conversations I've had with Geotab and talking to them at their events and stuff. It's a very interesting difference I found in how people handle it. How do you find the information you pick up in the commercial space and bringing it back out into the, we'll say, the other side of things where it's the individual looking at an EV?
Yeah, and it's that understanding that total cost of ownership. It's understanding the data points, and every driver of an electric vehicle for a commercial business is also a driver of a personal vehicle, usually 95% of the time. So if Matthew was working for a company, then they provide a company car or a van for him. Usually there's another vehicle in the house, and what we're finding is that the vehicle, the next time that they're renewing the vehicle, because they're so used to the electric vehicle, it's way up the ranking. The company may have provided a charger in the house. It's great to see that BIK implication in the last budget. Absolutely. Now won't be penalized for it. And so the understanding as to how to transition 700 vehicles to talk to my brother and what key points influence the drivers and the company, they're the same key points with regard, and the benefits of going electric, whether it's a smoother drive, a quieter drive, a more relaxing drive, a more focused drive. There's lots of things there, but a lot of it comes down to cost, running costs. And, you know, we've toyed with the idea of telematics for consumers, where we'd put the telematic device into the vehicle, gather the data and share that with the driver, but also we're just gathering a huge pool of data anonymously. So Matthew might stick a telematics device into his space tour, and he can log in and look to see what he's doing on a granular level within the telematic system. But I have another data point in another vehicle down in Limerick.
Yeah. Very interesting way of doing it, actually. Yeah.
It's already in the US. There's already, and so you can see your state of health in the battery. And some people, the really nerdy people, would have their own OBD2 port and their own dongle and have Leaf Spy and all the rest of it. Matthew, you are that soldier.
I am, yes.
But for the mass, you know, and I'm sure apps will get better for the OEMs for people who want to understand what their vehicle is doing. And I'd say we're going to see a lot more visibility and coming down the line on what is being shared with the consumer.
True. And again, I'll just quickly, it's a very simple one with the apps and stuff. I found that I had a guy in work recently, his 12-volt battery was gone in his BMW i3. It's probably the first time the 12-volt battery's been changed in the car. Car was parked up for a week before he went and actually changed it because it wouldn't go anywhere from it, put it in, car still wouldn't move. And the BMW specific app only worked with a certain list of OBD dongles. I have one, but it wasn't what was on the list. But we use another app that I would use on my side with general side of things. And actually we were able to just clear all the fault codes and just get it back out so that there was none initially, turn the thing back off, turn it back on again, and just see what happened. And we got it moving again. So we were able to change the battery into one day, clear the fault codes that had come up from that 12-volt battery being gone, and then able to get it moving again. Now, I don't want everybody to have to be in that space to go do that. But at the same time, when you were looking at a couple of €100 to get a flatbed truck to BMW, for them to diagnose it, to put in a 12-volt battery, to clear the codes and probably drive it for you and hand it back, there was a big cost difference between one and the other.
Absolutely. But some people wouldn't have the capability or understanding that right to repair is great, that we have the ability to do that if you've got the knowledge of it, you know.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic thing. So it's an interesting one to talk about, as you say, with those apps and what's going on with it. But people like data. Some people don't want to see it at all. They don't care, but it's going to be different for everybody. So it's a very, very interesting one to hear, actually. I do like the idea of that. So the other thing I'm going to say is to move on to the next little bit is the Nevo EV survey. You're running one at the minute. So talking of data, talking of information, give us an idea what's happening at the minute.
Yeah, so the survey, we want to roll that into the report that we're compiling as well. So there's more meat on the bone, there's more data points. We're getting a great response to it. So the survey, if you haven't seen it already, for the people that have tuned in now, it's across all of the Nevo socials and the Irish EV owner socials. And there's 5 by €100 one for all vouchers. I don't think it's too onerous of a number of questions. I think there's 16 or 17 questions. So a couple of minutes, you have the chance of winning a €100 voucher. And again, it's just understanding where people are now on their journey, where they're going, mileage, etc., etc. So I know our colleagues in Northern Ireland at the EV Association Northern Ireland did a very in-depth survey, over 60 questions a couple of months ago. Some really good data points there. So we're just easing ourselves into this survey, number one, but also our report that will be going out, all going well, next week before the show, to try and give a more impartial view as to what's happening within the Irish EV landscape. And so thank you very much to Matthew and the committee for promoting that and pushing that. And I know that we're always asked about sharing surveys and understanding what's happening within that space. So hopefully this one isn't too onerous, and there's a €100 voucher at the end for 5 people as well.
Excellent. Yeah, I haven't done it yet, Derek. So I'm going to. I'll put my hands up. I haven't done it yet, but I will.
Thank you for your honesty, Matthew. We've about 6 or 700 replies already, so it's a good chunk.
Very good.
Yeah, we're aiming for over 1,000 because we want that really to be, a fairly representative proportion of the population. So when you see the Red Sea polls or any of those polls, 1,000 is a good number.
Yes, absolutely. No, and as you say, data is great to have it. Being able to put it in with the rest of the information, it backs up what's there. I think there's a little bit of a lack of confidence in things at the minute, where people are looking at what's in the market and what's going on. And we'll touch on that again in a little bit further on. But I think people need to see this sort of stuff from the people that are actually in them. I know it's the Irish EV Association rather than the Irish EV Owners Association, but it's that real life experience. It's that ability to understand and talk about it, and being able to give that information out to people and capture it in a way that you can kind of say, look, it's nowhere near as bad as you think it is. The charging network, for argument's sake, at this point in time, going back to when I started my first EV in the Nissan Leaf, I had to stop in Fermoy. I had no choice. I wasn't going to get to Cork City and beyond into West Cork without stopping in Fermoy from Limerick. Whereas now it's kind of a case of, not only is it possible to say I could charge in Fermoy, but now there are 3 different sites with fast chargers in Fermoy. So it has shifted in that perspective, insofar as that's just one localized area. Now, there's areas without enough, and we know there's a lot of work to come and what needs to be done to get there. But that information that was previously there to where it is now, it's definitely going in the right direction. I think people need to understand that it really is moving in that direction. And things like this, data points, it's the sort of stuff to give confidence back to people into it all. And we'll get on to the next bit, and the juicy bit of it is the Nevo EV show, Derek. And this is one of the areas where people are going to get that information from. So before we get into that for this year, step back to earlier this year and tell us where we started from, where we're going towards.
End of 2023, the team in Nevo said, you know what, I think we should do a Nevo electric vehicle show. We'd been to another couple of shows across Europe, fully charged, eCar Expo, and we said, you know what, we think there might be enough appetite in Ireland. And so we started planning, looking at dates in the RDS, understanding the capacity, the size, the appetite from the industry. We said from the start we wanted it to be a free event. Not all of the European shows are like that. Some of them have a fee to get in. And so it's free to enter. And we got a fairly decent response. We had over 40 electric vehicles in the February show. We had Hall 1 and Hall 4, 6,000 square meters. And then the response on the day, Saturday, it was Valentine's weekend. we wanted to put I wanted to put cheesy advertising out there, but that guys are much more sensible than me. So I wanted to put the spark back into your relationship and all this kind of stuff. And it wasn't. The marketing team
didn't get off the drawing board at all.
No, it didn't get any further than that. But we had a really good day, and I know that the association were there. Thank you for exhibiting at it, and others. Yeah. And we had nearly 13,000 people there, just over 12,500 people throughout the day. There was no real quiet time of the day. Everybody was busy. Nope. There was lots of people around, and we wanted it to be an education event. We thought that's what it was going to be. Come along, ask the questions, and it turned into a massive sales event. People were coming along, asking the one or two final questions and putting deposits down in the cars that they liked. And it's so strange that a show where every dealer is open 5.5 days, sometimes 6 days, sometimes 7 days a week, where you can go in and sit down, but that environment sometimes scares people. And so the show was a real, people could come along. We saw people walking around with baby chairs and baby seats to see if they'd fit in their new car. We had over 200 test drives on the day. We had one stage where it was back to back. It was a busy day for me. That's wonder I didn't lose my voice. And it was I was so busy on the stage, I didn't get to see a lot of it out on the floor, but everybody I talked to said it was great stuff. We had a few launches at the morning. We had BYD, their first public, people seeing who they were, what they were about, as well as others. We had a sprinkling of commercial vehicles in there as well. Yeah, and then, so we were happy with that. February was going to be our time. And the Monday after the Saturday, we had a number of phone calls and emails coming into us from the industry saying, we're really happy with this. Would you consider doing it again at the end of the year for the 251 period? And we said, okay, let's go and see. RDS isn't quiet, so it's finding a weekend that they have free. Recently, we got a tap on the shoulder from some department in the government to say, are you in the RDS in November? And we're like, yes, we are. Well, they're like, oh, we may need a count center for an election. And so thankfully our show is going ahead now, and the election still hasn't been called, but I think it might be towards the end of November, at the beginning of December. But it's on the calendar now, and it will be November every year. It is a time of the year where people are interested in buying electric vehicles, and thankfully we have every single car brand there for sale, except for DS, because it doesn't have a new electric vehicle to launch. Otherwise, we have over 30 brands, over 80 electric vehicles. We have commercial vehicles in a more of a scale as well. We have 5 different brands showing commercial vehicles, 2 stages. We're in Simmons Court, which is the biggest indoor arena in Ireland, which is 10,000 square meters. And I know when I put up the post on the association page, some people say, oh, it's very Dublin-centric. If anybody around the country can find me a large covered venue, I'll be there. But just unfortunately, it is Dublin at the moment. And what questions would you like to ask about it, Matthew, if I haven't covered them already?
Well, I suppose the thing for me is, I was there in February. I'm going to be there in November. It makes complete sense to have it in November for that new registration period and for people to be at it. I wouldn't say surprised to hear that people were looking at it from a perspective of putting the money down, saying, yes, I'm going to go with A, B, or C for what I'm going to pick up next. But to me, the big thing was, and I probably got to see more than you did now, to be fair, Derek, is getting around and seeing what was going on, what was there, being able to sit and stuff. I found myself, when I came away, there was a number of vehicles that I came away from, and I went, I can't buy that because the seats were just not to my liking, or, height of a car, these sorts of things, where I kind of went, this just doesn't suit what I want my next vehicle to be. Fundamentally, now I'm a little bit away from that. I think I'm going to probably do like yourself, Derek. I'm going to pick up something probably a bit cheaper in the new year rather than a new vehicle. So I'm probably not in that space at the minute. But I found myself kind of going, if I was going to buy something, what would it be? Looking at stuff and kind of going, in my case, where something to replace the Citroen van down the line with, maybe that something isn't as big, maybe coming a bit smaller, but still 7-seater. What's out there, what's available, that sort of stuff. And came away with a couple of things where I went, yeah, I like that, but I didn't like other things. So I found that ability to be able to sit down and go through stuff was fantastic. It's busy, as you say. There's a lot going on. More brands, and having all brands there, as you say, bar DS is fantastic to see, because it gives everybody that turns up the ability to see what is there. You're not going to come away without having something to have a look at and seeing that you kind of felt that you didn't get to see it. And I think that's a fantastic place to be at. I think I'll be a bit harsh to our petrol and diesel equivalent models, is the enthusiasm is not there for them in new vehicles, from what I've seen and what I've seen reported, insofar as you can go to certain events and whatnot that's going on, and the petrol and diesel vehicles aren't drawing the same crowds as the electric vehicles are. So there is an enthusiasm there for them. And I think people want to see what's going on that side of things. So, no, to me, I think it's a fantastic event. I'm not surprised to see it back in November for the 251 reg, given that sort of, I didn't know that, that people are putting the money down and kind of going, yeah, I'm here. Let's
before
go.
the show in February, we had people emailing us going, is there going to be cash offers on the day? And I was like, cash offers on the day? Like, is there people going to bringing in bags of cash here? And yeah, and so we had some brands. I didn't get any cash offers on the day. We had some brands that had show specials. And so whether it was a different, slightly lower price point, whether it was throwing something in, charger, road tax for 3 years, whatever it may be. And so people went, well, I was thinking about buying it anyway. And now I'll definitely put down my name and a deposit and into it. Yeah. And so definitely a lot of brands now are coming to the November show even stronger, as well as new car launches with Irish prices that aren't going to be found anywhere else except at the show. And so a la Renault 5, etc., there are going to be cars at the show that you won't have the Irish price until the day. And I think some stands are going to be very busy because people are super excited
about what's there. Yeah, so, okay, two little things. One is, what's going to be there, Derek? What should people be excited for that they haven't seen already?
Oh, yeah. Let me pull up my spreadsheet. With regards to... No, we've talked about a lot of it. We've talked about a lot of it as well as to... And I know Carol has a question there, so if you want to jump into Carol's question, and I will answer... I'll come back to you with regards to the numbers of new electric vehicles that are going to be answered.
Perfect. So, Carol would say, is there any chance to introduce a booking system for fast chargers? As you travel on long distances, this would be very helpful when planning a trip. So I'm going to throw it out to you, Derek, on your side, what you see and what's coming on there. I'm going to distract you extra more while you're looking for that list. What do you see?
Great question, Carol. And it's a great idea. The only thing is with Carol, some charge point operators, CPOs, have tried it in the past, but it's very difficult for you to know exactly when you're going to be at that charger. So there'll have to be a window there. And so then that charge point operator would have to say, Carol, you're looking to book in between 2 o'clock and 2:30 in the fast charger in Galway, N17, Loughrea, whatever it is, Tuam. And what happens if you're not there? Are you happy to pay a fine that you got a puncture, or you got sidetracked, or you had a later lunch, or whatever it may be? Yeah. That charge point operator has to make money from that space if and when they can. And so the ability to book, I like the idea. Monta has that on their slower chargers. I'm not sure if it's on their faster chargers, but we would need a lot more chargers out there to have an element of hubs. So say there's 6 hubs, 6 chargers in a hub, and 2 of them could be booked, but the other 4 then could be free to pull up and charge. So it's a tough one, Carol. I think when we've enough chargers around and we're getting not far away from that tipping point in the next year or two, I don't think we'll need booking, because there'll be so many around. Now, busy weekends, there's always going to be bottlenecks around the country, don't get me wrong, but the ability to book, yes, but are you willing to guarantee that what you would have spent on that booking to be taken from you if you didn't make it as a penalty? Hopefully Carol isn't gone and they're going to jump back in and give an answer to that. What do you think, Matthew?
Yeah, to me, the biggest issue with it is lack of infrastructure. So It just falls down to the fact that we don't have enough charge point units that are on those routes. It is getting better, but it's not where any of us want it to be and think it should be. So that's the fundamental issue in behind something like this. I do like the idea, as you put it, Derek, of 2 being bookable and 4 being open to just rock up at any point in time. We don't book anything on existing refueling networks, is the way I would put it. So, that shift is something that could be possible. But again, do you treat it like you're, book a taxi through an app and they hold the fee? And if you don't use it, does the fee get taken? Or if when you do turn up and use it, it gets taken from that and you get refunded the difference, for argument's sake? There's a couple of different ways of doing it. I'm not sure. I don't think we're going to have it anytime soon. I think it could be something that could come about, but I think to me, the biggest thing is infrastructure. It'll come about when infrastructure is in a place that you can do this sort of thing. But it's to be seen as to whether you actually have that infrastructure in a large enough quantity that do you really need it then on the other side of it. So to me, that's the biggest issue. It's infrastructure and where it needs to be at.
Great question, Carl.
Yeah.
Okay, I found my list. I don't really know all 80 Excellent. Electric vehicles that are going to be at the show. So there are going to be around 14 Irish launches at the show, all going well. And then on top of that, then there's going to be some stuff that's just come onto the market. So I can go by brand, but I can quickly run through them. Alfa Romeo are hoping to have the Junior there, / Milano, and it's the artist formerly known as
Milano. Can't call it Milano.
No. Junior, looking forward to that. I've seen it twice. I've seen it in Goodwood and I've seen it in Paris Motor Show. Beautiful color, beautiful styling. Audi are going to have their Q6 and their Q4. BMW are going to have their iX1, iX3, and Mini Cooper Electric, and launching the Mini Aceman at the show. BYD are going to have Atto 3, Dolphin, Seal, and Seal U DMI. Citroen hoping to have the EC3 there. Cupra are definitely going to have the Tavascan, which I've seen already in Barcelona, and the Terramar P plug-in hybrid, as well as the Fermentor and Leon plug-in hybrids. So there's going to be a mixture of stuff with and without plugs in it. Dacia are going to have the Spring there, Irish launch of that. Fiat, fingers crossed, not confirmed that, but we're hopefully either going to have the 500 and 600 or the Grande Panda is the one that we're really interested in. Ford are going to have the Capri, the Explorer, and the Mach-E on their stand. Fuso are going to be there with their e-Canter, so the commercial side of the house. Ford are also going to be there with some commercial stuff as well. Hyundai are going to be there with Ioniq 5, Santa Fe PHEV. The Inster is also going to have its Irish launch, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that. Jeep are going to be there with their Avenger. EV3 from Kia are going to be there, as well as the Nero EV6 and EV9. But the EV3, it's doing rounds at the moment around some dealerships and shopping centres, but we're looking forward to having that on the day. Lexus are going to be there with some plug-in stuff and their NX as well. So nice premium brand, and I like the front of that actually. Maxus are giving away a van, an eDeliver 5, so you would have seen the advertisements around there. So over 50,000 euros of an electric vehicle, so don't forget that. And so they're going to have a mixture of commercial and passenger vehicle, predominantly commercial. So Maxus are putting a big push on the electric commercial side of the house there. Mercedes-Benz are going to be there. MG are going to be there with some very interesting stuff I can't talk about. Nissan are going to be there with their Leaf and their Ariya. Opel are hopefully going to be there with their Grandland, which I recently drove in Germany. Beautiful impact copper. Aura and Subaru are going to be there with the 03 and the Solterra. Polestar are going to be there with their 2, 3, and 4. Porsche are going to be there with the Macan Electric, which is gorgeous. I believe there's a former committee member with his name on an order there. And the Taycan. Renault are going to be there with the Scenic, the Megane, and launching the Renault 5. There's going to be a big activation, and you would have seen it in the Irish Times floor plan the last day. Smart with the #1, #3. Skoda with the Enyaq, and fingers crossed we're going to have the Elrock there as well, but to be confirmed. Tesla are going to be there with their Model 3, Model Y, and the Cybertruck is going to be there. Toyota are going to be there with their BZ4X and some of their PHEV stuff, as well as a electric Pro A City. Volkswagen are going to be there with their ID7, and fingers crossed, again, to be confirmed, an ID Buzz 7-seater, which is also nice to see. More very interested to Matthew.
Yes.
Volvo are going to be there with their EX30 and EX90, and we have Yang Wang there with the U8, and we may have another brand that I can't talk about.
Oh, okay. Leaving that one to speculation, Derek. Everybody's on tenterhooks now.
Tenterhooks. Yes. So hopefully that's enough for everybody. There's lots there. Now, you would have seen a lot of it, but you know what? When you put them all together, it's great to be able to say, and we had that in the February show, sizes of comparisons, people, being able to jump into one, like you said, Matthew, jump into another one, bigger headroom, bigger seats, bigger boot, whatever it may be. So the fact that there's over 80 electric vehicles, we're delighted with it.
Yeah, like the one I will sort of come to is the Kia EV3 is one I'm very interested in to look at myself. It's just that little bit taller than a Nissan Leaf insofar as its overall height when you look at the spec, but its length and width is kind of very comparable to a Leaf, but it looks like an SUV style of vehicle, whereas what it actually is that kind of more sort of hatchbacky style side of things. So I'm very interested in seeing that from that perspective, because of the fact that it's going to be in that more car size of things rather than being that SUV. So I think it's one that people catch their eye on and kind of go, no, that's an SUV, I don't want that one. Whereas it actually may be more suitable than what people might think. So to me, that's the big thing. Being able to see these things in person, touch, feel, see what it's like.
Bums on seats.
It's fantastic.
So next week, Cahill in Kia rang me a couple of months ago and says, Derek, would you like to go and drive the EV3? And I missed the reveal in Germany because I was on holidays. Sometimes I take holidays, but this year and last year I missed 2 Kias, and then I said, no problem, I'd love to drive the EV3, and he goes, it is the week of the show, and I was like, okay, one day, hopefully it'll be all done by then. This is what I was saying to the team. Simon and the team are doing an amazing job, so it is I'm very lucky to work with a great team there on the show. As much as people see me and think Nevo, there's a huge team behind me. It's not just me, but so I have to drive the EV3 next week before the show. So looking forward to it. Excellent.
Just to touch on then test drives, make people aware of that, and maybe people aren't as aware of it, but to give an overview on the test drives.
So we've got 20 vehicles that are available for test drive. So once you register for the show, and you can register for free on nevo.ie, and it will generate an Eventbrite ticket. That's the booking engine that we're using. So it should email you, or if you've got an Eventbrite app or you've got an account, it'll be stored within that. And once you're registered, then you should get an automatic email after a day or two where it'll offer you then the opportunity to do test drives. Test drives are very successful for us in February, and again, it is something that we will be focusing on moving forward. And so the ability to go along and see, but what we're found in February was a lot of people booked in advance, knowing that a certain vehicle is going to be there and knowing what test drive is going to be there. So don't wait till on the day because it may be already booked out. Put your slot in. So what happens is you select the vehicle that you're interested in, and then we come back with some times that are available, and then there's a €10 deposit that's refundable as long as you show up and do your test drive, and go from there. So we just want to make sure, rather than people booking it for the sake of booking it and then not showing, we don't want to. We didn't want any messing happening. So I know some of the people that we know, Matthew, went for test drives in February. Saturday there was a match on around the corner in Lansdowne, but we didn't lose anybody. We did over 200 of them. And so usually there's a brand representative with you. There is one manufacturer that lets you go off on your own and hopes that you come back, but fair play to them.
Very trusting, Derek.
They didn't. Well, they're all connected, I suppose, Matthew. You're not going to be driving straight onto the ferry and then heading off. I shouldn't give anybody that idea at all. People. We said to people, you can go into your local dealership and you can do this. You can book a test drive through Nevo, but they really liked the fact that it was on the day and they could have gone and sat in it, and there's a no pressure environment, is what we're hearing, and the impartiality again.
Excellent. So I'm going to throw up. Carol says thank you. So can we answer that question for you, Carol, earlier on? Derek, to move on slightly, but in the same vein of things, you're doing more test drives. You're seeing more stuff out there. You were recently at the Paris Motor Show. We're seeing a lot of things at the Nevo EV show as to what is new stuff that people haven't seen. But give us an overview of what's coming in that, personal car vehicle space, but also commercial space as well. Like what's happening on the two sides?
Yeah, and one of the halls in Paris was predominantly Chinese, and we're seeing a lot more brands. We're also seeing the likes of Cadillac coming back into Europe. I was very impressed with the Lyrique and the Optique, and so there's that. I've got a video coming out soon. I can't put much more Paris first look videos. People be like, Jesus, Derek. I mean, I did 15 videos in the day, so there's still a few in the bank. But GAC, which I'd never really heard of before, third largest EV manufacturer globally, sold over 430,000 EVs last year. They have a couple of sub brands, and so they have the Aveo and they have the Hypetech, or Hyper is what it was called before, but now it's the Hypetech.
Yes.
Yeah, but there's enough Hyper in your house now, I'd say, Matthew. But
there is.
But so there's that, but then there's other brands. Obviously, we know about BYD. We know about Leap Motors, which was an interesting one, which is Stellantis. They've taken a larger share in that as well. So definitely that is coming. But also, what's happening is that a number of the European manufacturers are really knuckling down. Renault doing a great job. Built in France, battery factory about to be launched. So the batteries will be manufactured in France as well. So the tariffs won't affect them because a lot of it is manufactured now with certain brands in Europe. Some brands are looking over their shoulder at those tariffs and going, we weren't expecting that. And then in the commercial vehicle space, a couple of weeks before that, I was at IAA, which is a biannual event. 1 year it's passenger cars, the next year it is commercial vehicles, and this year it was the commercial vehicle stuff in Hanover every year. And so back to Hanover for my second, getting old at this now, Matthew, my second show, and Kia were very kind to invite me along to that. And so they've got the PBV, which I would have seen at CES in Las Vegas back in January. I'm looking forward to going to CES in January again coming up. So a lot of EV electric vehicle stuff are coming to CES, that consumer electronic show. PBV is interesting because it's a skateboard platform that is the V2 of the EGMP platform from Kia Hyundai, and just it is the fact that you can have commercial and passenger, either it's a passenger personal vehicle or taxi or a van, small van, big van, medium-sized van, where Kia, who have not been in the commercial vehicle space in Europe, have done a bit in Korea, but it is phenomenal to see what they're planning. And PB5 will be taking orders in Q1 and going to be on the ground. The factory is nearly built in Korea and it's going to be on the ground by the end of next year. So you're going to see these custom-made electric vehicles. We're already seeing it with the likes of the eDeliver 5 from Maxus, which is EV only. We would have had a bit of that with eDeliver 3, which is a full electric vehicle as well, but ED7 and ED9 would have been multi-fuel, and so there's obviously scale is good for the manufacturer, but how it's set up is not as conducive when it's a not full electric vehicle for a skateboard platform, etc., etc. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the next generation of the Mercedes-Benz stuff coming, and Stellantis stuff is coming. Toyota, I cannot wait to get into e-transport courier, e-transport custom, e-transport itself, e-transit, apologies. And so, the vans excite me nearly as much as the cars. I'm just out of a Renault Kangoo electric, one of the quietest EVs I've ever driven. And that was on motorway speeds. Yeah, beautiful. Wouldn't be a big battery, wouldn't be huge range, but very well kitted out. And the screen that they had as for the camera, again, very much, I'm literally handing back a Polestar 4 tomorrow, which also doesn't have a rear window. But the screen was phenomenal in the Kangoo. Really good. And a nice aspect ratio as well. So, we won't be quiet in Nevo and on the YouTube channel. Let's just put it like that. It doesn't. It's not slowing down.
Yes. No, it does. It definitely doesn't sound like it. And again, that technology shift, that it's a big change from what was there before to what's there now. It's going to keep going. The thing I find interesting is I was watching a couple of guys that are from Australia recently, and a lot of imports come into Australia because they used to have domestic production of vehicles with Holden and Ford.
Yes.
That closed down a number of years ago. So everything now is an import in effect. But Chinese vehicles are becoming a big thing. But one of the statistics that they came out with was China has been the biggest manufacturer of vehicles since 2008.
Wow.
Now that's
all fuel
a
types.
lot, all fuel types.
Mm.
But we're only seeing them in the last 12 to 18 months coming out of China. But they have been producing more vehicles in China for China since 2008 than Europe or the US, which are the other big ones. That's phenomenal. And to your point, the tariffs and what's going on there is they're starting to see where, Honda would have been very much traditionally designed and made in Japan, nowhere else. And you would have had, Nissan and the others that would have come to Europe building factories and stuff in the UK and throughout Europe just to have it that way.
Exactly, yeah.
But you end up with design being done in Japan, manufacture being done in Japan. But now we're starting to see the same thing happen with China, where Honda are developing stuff within Japan, manufactured in China, and now being imported back into Japan. Completely unheard of on that side of things. So there is a big shift going on with things into where China is involved in things. So there's a huge thing coming. But definitely, I think, as you say, this isn't slowing down anytime soon. What's coming from traditional OEMs and from what's coming out of China in the Chinese manufacturers, there's a huge amount of stuff to come out of both side of things as to what's coming. So yeah, I'd agree. This isn't going to get quiet anytime soon as to what's going on this side of things. So
I think we are reaching a tipping point with battery size though, and speed of charging. I think that 10 to 80% in the 20 to 30 minutes, I don't think we're going to get much better than that. Yes, Kia and Hyundai and Genesis would have had the 10 to 80% in 18 minutes, but get a fast enough charger for that. But yeah, you know what? People are starting to say, I'm happy with that 30-minute. Nobody wants it super fast. Don't get me wrong, you have some Chinese brands with huge charging speeds, but there's a huge hardware required and network and grid connection required for that. I think we're getting to the stage where if there's enough chargers out there, and thankfully the charge point operators are putting in chargers that are of a decent size now. We're not seeing the smaller stuff anymore. So we're seeing the 100s, the 150s, the 200s, 250s are a bit more of an extreme because there's huge costs for them. But the battery size and the charging speed, my coast to coast 3 years ago, will it make it, Derek? Whereas now it's, well, would it make it back, Derek? You know what I mean? It's nearly getting to that stage where people are looking at. So I literally did a coast to coast this morning from Balmullet to O'Leary in a Polestar 4. That video will be coming out soon, and the efficiency. So now people are interested in the efficiency that I'm able to get. And the Balmullet run is a lovely run because it's a third secondary roads, a third primary roads, and a third motorway. So nearly like a little Irish WLTP, you know, whereas
it's fantastic, isn't it?
It's a nice little mix. Whereas I went down to Galway to pick up somebody, and then up to Mayo, and the motorway Dublin to Galway was a different, obviously, because you've got that constant speed all the time. So I was able to share both of those figures within the video. Some people only do motorway. Some people do a bit more of country road. So it's a nice understanding, getting a bit cooler now as well, but we're starting to see a bit more prevalence of heat pumps. But I remember somebody said to me a couple of years ago, and I won't mention the gentleman's name, he goes, Jesus, Derek, you won't have enough to do on this YouTube channel. You know, there won't be that many of them out there. Or everything will be EV, sure, you won't have a niche then. But thankfully it's still, it's going okay.
It's still there. Yeah.
It is, yeah. And you know what? I look at other YouTube channels and they're getting hundreds of thousands of views on combustion engine stuff. And could I do it? Yeah, absolutely, if I wanted to. But thankfully, I've niched myself and Nevo in the electric space. And it is, we're delighted that the likes of the show and the likes of the advisory and the website and all aspects of the business are thankfully, there's an interest, there's growth, there's an appetite for more information. And I'm very lucky that my passion project has turned into my day job, and I'm able to head off this week to drive a beautiful new electric vehicle around a racetrack that we were chatting about earlier on, Matthew. I don't know when it's going to be, the video's
terrible.
going to be out.
Yeah.
It's all work, Matthew.
Yeah. I will take those ones when you can't make it sometime, Derek.
Perfect. There is a list of people ahead of you, Matthew. I won't let. I'll put you on the list. I can't tell you where you'll be.
Yeah. I'm late to that party. I'd say. I'd say there's a few have offered already. Yeah. But so in closing out, Derek, we have the Nevo EV show coming. This is here in less than 2 weeks.
Sunday. Just 13 days away. I won't tell you how many hours.
Yeah, so we're getting close. Outside of the Nevo EV show, or including the Nevo EV show, what are we going to highlight for people at the end of this evening?
I think it's the show, it's the survey, it's obviously the website, and that website's going to be overhauled now. Recently, we're going to be going to a new version, so we're working on that as well, because we want to improve what's there, make sure that the usability and the information is accurate, and that people see value in it. And the advisory service is always evolving, whether it's helping local authorities, whether it's helping semi-states, whether it's helping private individuals transition to electric. A lot of people haven't even started the journey. A lot of people are waiting for that mandate to come or that regulation to hit them, and then they're panic stations. So some people are ahead of the game, some people aren't, and that's fine. There's only one Nevo, but there's a couple of organizations out there like us that are helping companies make that switch, whether it's a charge point operator themselves. What people like about us is the fact that we're impartial. We'll tell you whether a piece of hardware is good or bad. We'll tell you about back office systems that are good or bad, future proofing and scalability, and the expandability of chargers that you put in, or back offices that you put in, or vehicles that you're thinking about buying, that there's a new vehicle coming with a bigger battery, hold off. It's great to have that knowledge and to be all encompassed. It drives Patricia, my girlfriend, mental, because it's all that is talked about a lot in this house. But joking aside, she is now driving down the road and she goes, "Oh, there's a Polestar 4, Polestar 3." So getting it, understanding it.
My wife had similar, where she started with no clue, and then was, that's an Audi A4 convertible. I was kind of going, you didn't know that 6 months ago. So it happens, Derek. Yes, yeah. We've one last question, Derek, to finish it off. Any ticket giveaway for the show?
Remy, and I'm sorry I missed you when you were over at the last meetup. I wasn't able to make it down to it. Remy likes to come over and visit us. Remy, the tickets are free, and if you'd like me, I can VVIP. Yes, you can have at nevo.ie. You can get your free tickets, Remy. So thankfully, there's no charge for our show, and if you can get here, we've got some international people coming along from the UK and from across Europe that want to see what it's all about. It's one of the biggest EV shows in Europe, with over 80 electric vehicles, and the fact that we've all of the brands. A lot of people are impressed with that from across the water as well. So everybody's invited, and looking forward to. We'll blink and that show will be done, Matthew, and we'll be gone into 2025. Thank you to the association for all of their support with Nevo. I sit on the committee. I tried to do a bit. Wish I could do a bit more, but hopefully after the show, Matthew, we'll have a bit more time to give towards the committee. So, Matthew's waiting on the Monday. I'll be getting an email.
First thing I'll have it sent Sunday evening with a schedule out the door, Derek. And the last comment I'm going to make, Derek, on the ticket giveaway is, if somebody's charging for a ticket, just say no. Isn't that right?
Correct.
Derek? Yeah.
Well, there's other shows out there, and I'm sure they see the value in charging for a ticket as well. But if somebody's charging for a show, for our show, definitely say no.
Exactly.
You come to me, and I'll definitely send you the right link. But we did sell out the last time. I don't want anybody to miss out on the amount of emails and messages I was getting the 2 or 3 days before the show. Is there any chance of a ticket? Book them now, and you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Derek, I think we'll leave it there. It's a bank holiday Monday. People are getting ready for work tomorrow. Unfortunately, It's not like a Sunday evening where you're going for a pint, because you have the Monday, or in that Monday where it's getting into the work tomorrow. So we won't keep people any longer. But thank you very much. It's fantastic to sit and chat with you as always, Derek. It's fantastic to hear about Nevo and what's going on. And to everybody that has tuned in, thank you very much. This has been episode 6 of the Info Circuit. We will be back again soon. Every week, once a month, Eric. That's the plan, isn't
it? Once
a month.
Don't say every week, you lunatic.
No, somebody's going to hold me to that. So no, we're not here every week. But the weeks that we turn up, it'll be once a month.
They're good weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be a good one.
Thanks, Matthew. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Derek, and thank you to everyone. And we will see you all soon.